Hey, what's up, guys? It's Coach Jessica here from Checkmat Fallbrook, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome to our very first podcast. Still trying to come up with a name for it. My vision for this podcast series, kind of similar to my vision for the gym, and this is another way we're kind of trying to reach out and touch the community, especially during this time when we're all separated. Every great gym I've ever been a part of as a member has had this community-centered feel to it where the gym isn't just whoever owns it or whoever the leader of the gym is. I'm the head instructor of our gym, but the gym isn't me. The gym is all of you guys. And everything I've ever been a part of that has had that as its core philosophy has been the greatest place to train because it provides a supportive family and supportive atmosphere around whatever the activity is. And for some of us, that is our escape, our release, our family. Some of us don't have a lot of family support, either where we live or in our lives in general, or that may be our social center. So my vision for Checkmat Fallbrook is really to be that, to not just be the place where you train jiu-jitsu and learn how to fight, but also to be the core of your to have that family atmosphere around it, and to build that community. So this podcast series, I thought would be a great way, while we're all separated and don't have that organically in the gym, those relationships in the gym right now, to be able to reach out and lean on some of our gym members who may have expertise and ideas about things that have sort of a broad relevance to our gym community, where it would give them an opportunity to kind of contribute that expertise and for all of us to be able to benefit from it and to share that around a little bit. So my particular vision for today's podcast, or the inspiration for today's subject, came on March 13th as I was sitting in our brand new gym facility that we were getting ready to open on Monday, March 30th. And I had an order in my hand for all of this brand new equipment for the build out, and everything was focused on just this reopening and this gym expansion and everything. And I got the phone call from my daughter's school that they were planning on shutting down for a month. And the coronavirus stuff to that point had kind of been on my radar, but like in the background, it was something that was going on. We're like, all right, kind of see what happens, but we were going about our daily business. And then all of a sudden that hit me like a ton of bricks and changed kind of my entire focus of what we were doing. So a lot of things changed with the gym expansion, as far as the timeline goes. But I was also suddenly thrust into this position where I just acquired another job, another full-time job, and dealing with being a business owner, especially going through business expansion and things like that. And balancing that with my family life is something I'm used to as a mom, but now adding the additional role of school teacher on top of that was like, whoa, what am I doing? And it's not just a matter of, okay, the kids are home for a month and we have this month of vacation. It's not that. And, they have academic goals that they need to meet. And I'm sure that only becomes exponentially more important the older the child is. And I think a lot of families are feeling this all of a sudden who are approaching this homeschool situation for the very first time, maybe ever, and not by choice. And we've all kind of had to scramble to figure out how to do this. So for me, it was a big challenge, trying to figure out how to add this extra full-time job into my schedule. And something that I thought about was there are families and people who already kind of do that and manage that third job on a very regular basis. There are homeschool families that are homeschool families by choice and have a lot of experience in this arena. So I thought it would be kind of cool to bring on somebody from our gym community who has some expertise in this area. I'd like to introduce Kristina Camper. Bryce Camper, her son, is one of our kids' students. And Kristina is a homeschool mom. She's also a business owner and mom of 6. Bryce has 5 siblings. So this is a person who I respect a lot with expertise in this particular area about how to balance the tasks of running a business and being a mom and maintaining that family life, as well as schooling children. So with that, I'd like to say hi to Kristina. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
For sure. So my first question, I think that will be helpful for the group, is if you could kind of break down how you structure your time to make sure your objectives are met. So you have objectives for your business and you have objectives for your family. And your kids also have academic objectives that they need to achieve. And how do you basically divide your time on kind of a macro level to make sure that every day you're meeting those goals?
Well, the first thing we always look at is what are the goals that we're achieving for the week, and talking with the kids and kind of breaking down things that they want to learn, but also letting them know that part of those goals are also mommy working, daddy working, and things along those lines, where we need to make sure that we're working as a team together so that all these different things are met, so that we can have the fun at the end of the day, so we can do different experiences, things that they really like to do, and it kind of creates that reward system for them. But also knowing your boundaries within what you need to do as well, and how to take that time and structure it around your priorities. So you know, the kids would be first, if you're married, that type of thing, and then figuring out your business hours and what's going to work for you if you're working at home, or if you're just trying to achieve something outside of that, and just having a discussion. I think at the end of the day, it's really just sitting down and having those discussions with everyone so that everyone's on the same page and the kids know what's expected of them, and they're not just kind of thrown into it, and creating activities around that. So when you need that quiet time, they have something independently to do. So they're not bugging you while you're trying to get your work done, and it's going to change. So it's just a matter of evaluating what's going to work for you guys, and it takes time as well. It's figuring out the little things around it.
Another thing I think was an issue that I noticed right away was we were being kind of inundated with resources. A lot of people were struggling to try to fill our needs and help us navigate this. And we were being sent links by their teachers and other families who were trying to just be helpful, sending around links for YouTube things and online resources and this curriculum and that curriculum, and hey, check out over here. And we had all of this information, and again, trying to balance you know, managing a business and running a family situation, and then figure out how to do this. What I really found that we were lacking was a blueprint. The resources are deep, but the blueprint is not. How do you develop a blueprint to make sure you're keeping the kids on target for your grade levels? Like, I can go online and Google, you know, school curriculum, or, you know, school resources, reading lessons or math lessons and stuff like that. But how do you create a blueprint to make sure your kids are staying on target with the level of curriculum they're supposed to be achieving for their grade level?
Right. And it's a really great question, because going from traditional school to homeschooling, we have a lot of different resources. And one of the things that I think would be really helpful that I found in one of my resources was called worldbook.com. And what it does is and you go to the part that says typical course of study. And what that will do is that will break down what everyone needs for each of their grade level and give you an idea of what to focus on. So that will make it a lot easier to find something to target and go, okay, this is what we're looking at. Now, how do we incorporate that into our schedule? How do we incorporate some of these things into our life? Can we do some of these things within what we're doing already? Because a lot of times what we'll find is that what we have available to us in our home will actually apply to a lot of what we need to be doing. And so I recommend going to that resource. And then another one is called everythinghomeschooling.com. And again, it breaks down each grade level and what to focus on. So I think that will help parents look at it and go, oh, okay, we need to do this for math and this for science. And it is a blueprint of how to stay on task and focused on things. And then you can go outside of that and go, okay, you start having that talk with your kids and you go, well, what do you want to focus on this week? and kind of open it up to them, because they'll kind of guide you with what they're interested in, and then you won't have to fight them on engaging them and what to do. So that's extremely helpful for us, is finding what they're interested in and kind of talking about it, and then going to the blueprint, the breakdown, and then going to a possible resource that you've already been sent, and you can go, okay, that might work for that, or things along those lines, if that makes sense.
For sure. And that's actually a kind of a great segue into my next question is, how do you approach resistance from kids when they are not wanting to sit down and be schooled? One of the biggest things that I was dealing with the first couple of days was like getting the kids to understand that this wasn't a vacation. Having a month off from school is one thing, but this isn't off time. This isn't break time. It's not like a weekend. And I don't think most kids who are not used to that homeschool environment understand that. When they're home, that's their free time, and they have homework and stuff, but like typically that's their free time. They're not thinking about achieving a curriculum during the day, neither are parents. What are some skills that you use to be able to transition from this is our home where we relax to this is now your school, your classroom, and we're going to learn? And how do you help the kids, or how do you deal with it when the kids are kind of resistant to that?
Right. So I was reminded when I was researching a little more to talk to you, and what they had suggested was when you go from traditional school, they're used to a very regimented schedule. And so what we're seeing is the kids come home and now they're like, well, what are we supposed to be doing? Because they knew what was expected when they're at home. They now have to transition into that, and that could take a week. And it's okay to have that transition, because they need that decompressing so that they can understand how to start adapting into the new schedule, which it's like starting a new job, right? When we start a new job, we're a little nervous and scared. We don't really know what to do, but we know we have to ease into it. It's kind of the same idea. And it's just getting the kids to, as far as them being compliant, some days are going to be better than others. And I think I'm going to keep going back to this, but I think it goes back to just having those conversations with them. But I was looking at something and reading that this is a really good example. There was an 11-year-old boy who was struggling with his writing. He's 11. Usually by 11 years old, you're okay with writing. Well, he hated it. So one thing that you really can start focusing on is learning what your children, how they learn, and also how they, what they're having struggles in, and figuring out, okay, well, how do we adapt to this situation? And what she was finding, this mom was watching him, and he couldn't even write his name. It was just really struggling, because fine motor skills for boys come later than girls. So even at 11 years old, he was just struggling to write. It just wasn't there. So what she did is she adapted to his writing skill by typing, and he would type everything that she asked. He did everything to a T at that point, and there was no tears, no struggle. So I encourage you to just look at your kids and see, what is happening with them that's causing resistance, and maybe start seeing how to kind of form that with what they enjoy. So for him, his fine motor skills to learn that was to go to his Legos. He loved Legos. He loved building, things along those lines. So she just focused on tactile learning for him and his fine motor for learning to write, because that was working for him. And so it's just finding those little things that encourage them and engage them, and just finding the learning styles as well. If they're visual learners, auditory learners, or if they're tactile, kinesthetic learners. And that will also help engage how they learn, and they will want to do it. And then you won't be fighting them that way as well. So it's just finding and fine-tuning what your kids love to do and how they are actually learning to do it. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. So would it be fair to say just kind of focus on being patient and manage your expectations about having that week to transition into the new schedule, and don't assume that first week is just how things are going to be, but kind of have give them some grace about working into the new routine a little bit?
Oh yeah, everyone on both ends, because it gets frustrating for everyone. and definitely taking the timeouts and the breaks and, reevaluating. It's just going to be a whole learning process. And I guess just enjoy the moments. Don't get frustrated, because it'll only discourage them from wanting to keep learning at home. And if this does drag out, that's the last thing you want to do is fight with your kids on learning, because it just won't make it fun for anybody.
When we were chatting yesterday, kind of prepping for this, one of the things you mentioned as part of a charter school, which you are, that you have phenomenal support from your homeschool teacher, who is an individual who is used to coaching, I guess, families through this homeschooling process and sort of directing that curriculum. One of the things I was thinking about is the teachers that we interact with, our regular public school teachers, are probably not used to that type of job function. They're used to classroom environments, and they're very good at what they do. We love, our teachers and everything, but they're used to delivering the curriculum directly to the students in the way that they do, and now having to transition themselves into this role where they're coaching families on how to deliver that curriculum to the students. They may not know quite how to approach that, and that is what I've found so far. What type of support is most useful for you from your homeschool teacher? And then how can we as parents maybe be initiating, asking for those types of resources and support from our classroom teachers who may not be knowing that they need to give that to us?
Right. So the things that I really focus on with her are, learning challenges, so how to get past certain things. As far as resources, they throw a lot of stuff at us, like the teachers are for you as well. And so we have the flexibility being at home to kind of pick and choose what we want to do. And honestly, this may go against a lot of what people believe or think, but you just have to find what works for you. And those two resources that I gave you that kind of break down the curriculum, I think will just really help just create a focus. If you're looking for more of, are you kind of looking at like day-to-day activities, or what are you what's your focus with that?
Both. I think, like I said, one of my biggest struggles was this idea of creating a blueprint to figure out what it is, kind of a macro planning of the curriculum where we're being given information but no framework for it. Right. So I'm imagining that a homeschool coach is going to or a teacher is going to kind of be able to break that down for you and say, okay, these are your macro goals. This is what you're trying to do. Figure out how with these resources to create that experience for your child, where we're kind of just being fed the information and no framework around it. Yeah,
to be honest, that's how we kind of started. And it just was one of those things where we evolved and adapted to what we kind of wanted to focus on. So really it just comes down to, I know the school system wants to focus on certain things, but maybe at this point in time, it's just a different season. And maybe it's just a matter of, learning what your kids love to learn. And within that, looking at theworldbook.com and the everythinghomeschooling.com and look at the curriculum and just see how you can kind of incorporate the things inside of those different guidelines within math, within language arts and things like that. But the biggest thing is if you're having challenges outside of teaching, like say you don't know how to teach certain things, it's just a matter of going outside of the school system, but also going to your teacher and saying, hey, you want us to teach these certain things. My child you're saying they need to learn this stuff, but I don't know how to teach this. And that happens across the board. And that's just a matter of them offering resources at that point, which they should, as far as, tutors and things like that, because they have all that stuff online nowadays, to be able to teach parents and the students together. But yeah, it's really, it starts out weird, and then you kind of find your rhythm so that you know what to kind of do on a day-to-day. But really it's just a matter of figuring out what works for you and your family, to be honest, at the end of the day. Gotcha. My homeschool teacher doesn't do anything more than what yours does, except gives me resources, and I'm able to buy curriculum to have at home. But it just, yeah, I know that's probably not the answer that people are maybe looking for, but don't stress yourself out too much, because kids have so many learning opportunities within their environment, like so many opportunities, especially within books too. And there's a lot of online resources that I can kind of print out or type up and kind of send an email to you to send out to everybody. But again, they're resources. It's just finding what goals you want to focus on, breaking those goals down, and then seeing what you can incorporate from math, language arts, and just pick one from each. Like don't go crazy with it. Just find one from each and just see if they're able to master it. If they're not, then you can figure out focusing on that a little more. But again, it's just, it's really like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a trial and error at the end of the day. Trial and error with everything.
Okay. Another thing from annoyingly positive people that I have heard echoed over and over since this whole thing has started is people are like, oh, the silver lining, just enjoy this time with your kids. Yeah, there's all these problems, but you should be enjoying this time with your kids at home. And I think that there is something to that. It kind of made me think, someone who has chosen homeschooling, you've obviously recognized that there are great benefits to those opportunities, that there's some opportunities there that you get from that homeschooling experience that you might not get with a traditional school setting. So for you as an elective homeschool mom, what do you find to be the biggest silver lining? What are the biggest benefits to doing that maybe some of our families can look at and kind of focus on and appreciate more than the just, hey, you get to spend more time with your kids part?
It's all the learning opportunities that you get, the discussions that you get to have, and learning your children. Because when you learn from them, they will learn from, you will learn from the experiences as well. And I find that when my oldest son is in school, I miss out because I have my oldest son in public school. So for me, I'm actually having to figure out how to do all this with him, because I don't know anything about sixth grade curriculum. So I'm actually on the same boat a lot of you are with figuring out what to do with him. And so I'm having to research and stuff. But anyway, it's a matter of taking that time with them and just really getting to know them, because there's so much that happens at school that I don't get to see. I don't get to watch and experience. And just you take advantage of the hands-on learning opportunities, make connections with them as far as life skills, what's going on in the community, things along those lines. I mean, there's just so much opportunity for opening conversations, teaching them what it's like to be a unit, a family unit, talking about goals together. At the end of the day, being a family is like running a business. There's so many moving parts that you have to accomplish together. And it takes all these different efforts and personality styles and learning together, learning strengths and weaknesses. And then you find that then when you go back to school, you'll have a new appreciation for how they learn or what's going on in their life, because now you'll be able to have discussions with their teachers about, well, this is why they're struggling, because I got to see them do X, Y, and Z at home, and that just not working. And so now you're also giving the teachers insight on what they can do to help your kids. But really it's a matter of, there's just tons of learning there, and getting to know your kids a lot better, I think, is the biggest thing, having talks and doing things like that. But
okay. Well, we'll get finished up here. If you want to leave everybody with one parting word of advice, what is the biggest encouraging advice you could give to families who are approaching this probably for the first time and probably on a temporary basis for sort of indefinite period right now? But the idea is that most of these kids will probably at some point be going back to school. Right. What is the biggest piece of advice you could leave our families with to get through this time?
Just have a lot of patience and grace with your family, because it's going to be challenging. Kids are challenging. We're not the same, and it's temporary, or you may find that you love this and you want to keep going. So I just find those moments in the day to encourage one another and teach that, because it will motivate them to keep going. That positive mindset creates little habits to keep them moving forward. and it reinforces the positive habits so that they want to keep doing what they're doing with you, and then it will cause less struggle at the end of the day.
Okay.
Tiny habits that will go a long way.
For sure. All right. Well, Kristina, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you coming on and chatting with me. Again, definitely respect what it is that you do, having to live a little piece of this for the last 2 weeks. It's an insane amount of work. But you do it with grace. You do it well. So I appreciate you sharing some of that advice and information with us. And I think it's been definitely helpful to me. And I hope it can be helpful to some of our other families in the group.
I hope so too.
So, all right, guys, that's it for today. That concludes our first podcast. We're going to be running one of these every Sunday. And like I've said with everything else, with this big transition to virtual gym, and as we grow and develop and expand our gym, I want to build this around what you guys want. You guys are the customers, but you guys are also the heart of what our gym is. You guys make up our gym. So I want to kind of facilitate and be that hub that makes it what you guys want to, where you want to train, in the community that you want to be. So please shoot me your ideas for topics for this, as well as everything else. Couple of pieces of news. We moved the gym today, so that was a big deal. We're completely vacated from our old space on Mission Ave down there, or Mission Road, and moved into our brand new location at 205 North Main, which is on the corner of Hawthorne and Main Avenue. You'll be able to drive by it for the next couple of days until we reopen, but we're working hard to get the mats installed. Our broadcast tomorrow on Monday at 1:30, our live broadcast will be from the new facility. So you guys will kind of get a sneak peek about what's going on in there. And we are still planning on rolling out all of our brand new equipment and brand new programs for when we open back up to bring you guys back into the physical facility. So you guys are going to be coming back into a really awesome space when we do reopen. We're very excited about it. We'll try to keep you posted along the way with the developments. Couple other things we have going on that we're working on right now. We've started our planning for our summer camp program, which we launched for the first time last year. It was very successful. It'll be a week-long program, probably a half day. That's what we did last year, and it was received pretty well. And we're planning on that for a week in July and then a week in August. And we're hopeful and confident that the restrictions at that point will be lifted. We should be able to move forward with that. So we want to make sure we're ready to go. So more details will be coming out about that pretty shortly. Again, look for our live broadcast on Monday at 1:30. That will be on the Zoom platform. We're phasing Facebook Live out. The Zoom is a much better interactive platform for me to be able to teach you guys and then watch what you're doing as students and then correct your techniques kind of on the spot. So much more effective for our purposes. So if you guys are having any problems getting into Zoom, if you haven't tried it yet, try it out. Shoot me any questions you have, and we're happy to help set you up and get you going. Want to make it an easy transition for you. Tuesday, we'll be releasing our next technique tutorial. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to check out the one we released this past Tuesday, but we're going to be releasing one of those every week. And that's about all we've got for you. Make sure you guys are following our social media on Instagram and Facebook at Checkmat Fallbrook BJJ. We launched our YouTube channel this past week, and that is going to be our kind of central repository for videos for both members-only content and our public content. As we put together these technique tutorials and build that library, as well as have all of our recorded classes available for you guys to see, to look back on as a resource to enhance your jiu-jitsu training. So go ahead and give our channel a subscribe so you get notified when we post new videos. And then just stay alert on social media so we can keep you updated with everything that's been going on and everything that is coming up. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:30 for our live training session, and we will be getting started with Mount Week. Have a great night. Bye.